Hey folks, Quilly18 here, and welcome to Let's Play Scythe, Digital Edition. Scythe is a real-life board game, and if you guys have ever watched the channel before, you know that I am a huge fan of board games. I've got dozens of board games in my basement here. I play every week with some good friends of mine, and I love digital versions of board games as well, because it means I can play on my own against some AI. That being said, one of my great shames is that I've never played Scythe before. It is one of the top-rated board games of all time. If you go to Board Game Geek, you'll always find it in the top 10. It is not only an excellent strategic board game that really favors planning and foresight much more than luck. There's very little random element at all in Scythe. Not only is it brilliant that way, but it's also just utterly gorgeous to look at. I mean, just this little menu screen in the digital version should really give you a sense of, wow, there is some art that went into this. I even love the manual, and you can download the PDF manual online just by Googling it. There's also a link. If you hit the rules over here, it'll actually just pop up the online PDF for the manual. And the manual has tons of like little designer notes thrown throughout it. This, I mean, just an incredibly beautiful and brilliant game, and I can't believe I've never gotten around to playing it before, but we are doing that today. Before we start, what I want to read is the tiny little backstory from the manual, which I think the backstory combined with what you're seeing here should give you a really good sense as to what we're going to be dealing with when we play. The ashes from the First Great War still darken the snow in 1920s Europa. The capitalistic city-state known simply as the Factory, which fueled the war with heavily armored mechs, has closed its doors, drawing the attention of several nearby countries. With characters from 5 factions converging onto a small but highly desired swath of land, who will gain fame and fortune by establishing their empire as the leader of Eastern Europa? Yeah, so this is an alt history game where things in World War I went slightly different, and we end up with ginormous mechs doing battle, while, you know, the farmers are still working things very manually. I'm very eager to jump into this right away, so let's go ahead and start a new game. Now, we can have up to 5 players. On Board Game Geek, the website for all things board gaming, players have sort of voted and said the sweet spot for the number of players is around 4. You can play, 2 to 5 players, but 4 might be the sweet spot. Now, I strongly suspect that that number is picked because when you're playing a real-life version of a board game, people take time to take their turns. And with 5 players, for all I know, the game is more interesting and more strategic and more deep, but maybe, you gotta wait super long for your turn to come around. That's not really a problem with the digital version, because the digital version does things like count things for you a lot faster. Also, when you're trying to move units, it highlights tiles that are legal moves, that sort of thing. Very, very, very handy dandy. And that goes double when you're playing against bots, because bots are pretty fast. That being said, I will just leave it at 4 over here. I think that's going to be fine, as opposed to going to the full 5. That's going to be okay. I have played the game a couple of times, only a couple of times, and I was able to beat the game on easy. You guys are not here to see me stomp easy. You're here to see me lose against hard bots. We're gonna see how we do here. Be ready. I suspect we're gonna lose, both because my long-term strategic planning and understanding the importance of various parts of this game are not developed yet. I don't know what necessarily to prioritize. In addition, there's almost certainly gonna be some just dumb short-term moves because I mismathed something and I, did the wrong thing. There are 5 different factions to play as. There's the Polonia Republic, which is Anna and I'm gonna go with Wojtek over here for her bear, which is awesome. And I mean, in the physical version of the board game, you've got these cool little minis for your characters. Everything just looks great all the time. This is who we're going to be playing as, because it's the only one I have a little bit of experience with. And so I'm like, all right, I'll take what experience I've got to start as Polonia. Each faction does have a unique ability, as well as a unique starting score of military power and combat cards. Their mechs are all slightly different as well, in a couple of different ways. But the most meaningful thing, I would say, about each faction is the place they start on the map, which varies quite a bit. We'll look at that once we get into the game. There's also the Nordic Kingdom over here, which is Bjorn and his... what is this? A musk ox named Mox. Oh, that's creative. Bjorn, not very good at naming things, but he does look absolutely adorable. I love both him and the Ox. They kind of look like they're two of the same, don't they? We've got the Rosoviet Union over here with Olga Romanova and Shanga, her tiger. And again, the art is just like second to none. The Crimean Khanate with Zara and Kar, the eagle. That is sweet. I mean, and it's cool because you've got this like complete mismatch, right? You've got this like very old school thing. She's got a bow, she's mounted, and then in the back you've got some sort of like death machine marching through the countryside, probably slaughtering people. Like, I don't know, man. And you can pause to take a look at the different faction abilities as well. There's finally the Saxony Empire over here with Gunther von Duisburg and Nacht and Tag. I think that's night and day. I think those are his wolves, right? Oh yeah, right there, night and day. Hey, I totally know German, you guys. And they're interesting because they like fighting a lot. And we can just leave it on random. I'm going to go and take the Polonia Republic over here. Now, in addition to the faction, one of the other things that changes the game considerably every time you play is what player mat you end up with. Now, we're going to talk about what the heck this means once we get into the game. But basically, your actions that you take on your turn, you take one of these actions and it's a vertical slice. So either you're going to take let's say you do this one. This is the action that lets you, well, either you can move or gain some coin. You do the top part of the card, and then you can do the bottom part of the card, which allows you to spend 3 wood. It's red, so that's a cost. Spend 3 wood to build a building. So you could do both. You could move and build a building as sort of your one combined action. Or you could trade, spend a coin to get 2 resources, and then if you have food, you can do spend food to recruit, which is a whole other thing. So as far as I know, some of these combinations are different. So here's the move plus build. If we go over here, you can see that on the engineering card, it's move plus recruit. On the patriotic card, it's move plus upgrade, mechanical, move plus build, and agricultural would be move plus upgrade. And the costs vary. So on the agricultural and the patriotic card, it's 2 oil to upgrade. But on other cards, it's 3. Is anyone who's 4? No, 3 is the maximum for upgrading. But the mech costs vary as well, either 3 or 4 metal, building is 3 or 4 wood, recruiting is 3 or 4 food. So it's 2 or 3 for the upgrading, and the other things mix up. So depending on what card you end up with, you'll have a different combination of actions, as well as slightly varying costs. Furthermore, this priority here is the player order. The industrial card is always the player who goes first, but as a result, starts with less popularity and less money. Whereas if you go all the way to the final card, agriculture, which is the lowest priority, you do start with more popularity and more money to sort of balance that out. I'll leave this on random, and we'll see what we can do. Let's go ahead and start the game. We get this little I don't know, synopsis of our scenario setup here. We're Polonia. Our faction ability is to meander, and this is going to be, I really like this ability. That's one of the reasons I'm picking Poland. It's not just the cool bear, although doesn't he look friendly? Don't you just want to like dig your fingers into like his forehead and give him a good scritching? Absolutely. Every player gets assigned 2 random secret objectives. This changes every single game, and again gives you a variation in how you play. That's the strength of this game, is the combination of faction plus your player board, plus your secret objectives, plus the random structure bonus that applies to this game, means that no 2 games are going to be the same. It is an extremely well-designed board game. So we'll look into these a little bit as we start. Oh, we got the industrial board. So we're actually going to go first, which is kind of cool. All right, I like that. Oh, you'll notice, oh, this is a sweet little intro. Super sweet. Look. You know, it's the little things. Everything about this board game, both the physical game and the digital one, they did a really good job at, like, it's the little things that matter. It's the little sense of polish that matter for a game. It sets the mood. It's just, I think that's gorgeous. I hope you agree with me that this just looks really, really nice. I was going to say something else, and I have no idea what it was. I got super distracted by that, but that's fine. Anyway, here's the board. And there are starting areas scattered all around the board. There's actually 7 different starting areas. 2 of them are placeholders for future possible expansion people, which in the physical real-life version of the board game, that expansion has now come out. Because this game came out maybe a couple of years now, something like that. So they came out with an expansion that does add a couple extra factions, and technically you can play with up to 7 players now. But yeah, so We've got, who are we playing? We've got Saxony is over here. We've got the Rusviet, and we got the Nordics. So we do not have the Crimean Khanate over here because I only said 4 players instead of 5. Each one of our starting areas has our base tile. So for example, here is the Rusviet base. This tile is not a real tile. It's where your character starts. It's also if you lose a battle, this is where your units will retreat to. Your units never get killed if you lose a battle. They just retreat to here. But other than that, it's not a real tile. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't count as territory for scoring or anything like that. In addition to that, you have access at the start of the game to 3 nearby tiles. For example, Rusviet here start with access to a village, a tundra, which produces oil. The village lets you get extra workers, and there's a mountain over here which produces metal. If we scroll over to the Saxony start, for example, they have a mountain with metal, they have a tundra with oil, and they have a village. Oh, I didn't realize that. The Saxon and the Soviet start are basically the same. Not Soviet, Rusviet, my bad. It's not exactly, because the adjacency is a little different and the movement will change up a little bit, but that's kind of interesting. Over here, the Nords don't have access to a village, for example, right? They have a forest for wood, they have the oil, and they have the metal. We, as Poland, we're the only start that doesn't start with metal, which can impede our ability to get a mech early on, unfortunately. Although we have this slightly cheaper mech on this industrial card. It's only 3 metal instead of 4, and we can trade for resources as well, so we can still get that fairly early on. We have access to wood, we have access to food from this farm, and there's also a village over here. Now, to get out of our starting area, there's a river to cross over here, and by default, we can't cross a river. There's a few different ways to get out of here. 2 of the ways really involve getting a mech. So when you get a mech is a unit that can be used for battle, but it also unlocks the ability, where's the mech abilities over here? Every time you build a mech, you get to unlock one of these mech abilities over here. Once you built all 4 of your mechs, which is how many mechs each faction has, you'll have unlocked all 4 of these abilities. So for us to get out of here, we can either unlock the river walk ability for our mechs, so that our mechs can cross the river into villages or mountains. So this would be a mountain here, for example. And yeah, that would be it. So there's a way for us to hit a button. Where is it? Ah, Riverwalk. How can I cross? This is not showing me what I thought it was showing me. I don't think. Anyway, let's come back to that. Yeah, I'm fairly new to the digital version here. Yeah, so Riverwalk. So we can cross rivers. Our mech's going to be able to cross rivers into villages or mountains. So we could walk from here over to there, and that'd be fine. And mechs can carry workers on them. So this is a way for us to get our workers out of our starting area. We could also do it via submerge, which is kind of interesting because it allows mechs to walk into lakes and then walk from any one lake to any other lake. Presumably they're all connected via underground riverways or something like that. In fact, in that respect, they work very much like tunnels. Tunnels are all these tiles that have these little pink tunnel icons on here. Tiles with tunnels are considered adjacent to all other tiles with tunnels. So you can move from this tile to this tile in a single move because they're connected by a tunnel. That brings us to our third way off our little island here. We can build basically our own tunnel. We can build a mine entrance over here, which is going to be connected to the entire tunnel system and gives us a way out. And I suspect that's probably how we're going to want to do it. I don't know. There's so many different options. Oh gosh. I don't know. We can get a cheap mech too. All we'd have to do is trade for metal twice and we could get a mech and leave that way. That's really sexy. Let's take a moment and take a look for this game. What's the structure bonus? So every game has a random structure bonus, which is how you score bonus points based on your buildings. Every player has 4 different buildings they can build. You can build all 4, and in fact, building all 4 earns you a star. We haven't talked about stars yet, but stars give you points, and also the game ends when someone hits a 6th star. You don't necessarily win if you're the person to get the 6th star, but it'll help, certainly. So in this game, number of encounters adjacent to your structure. Okay, and rivers don't break adjacency. So tiles with these little compass stars over here, these are encounter tiles, which are really good as Poland because we get to take 2 things. So there's going to be a bonus to building buildings adjacent? Adjacent. So does that mean it's not going to count? I don't know if it counts the one I'm on. So if we're going to build a tunnel to get out of here, we're going to want to build it here. which is slightly awkward. And I say that because we're going to want our character to be in this village, and we're going to really want to leave this area with our character primarily. It's much nicer if you can build the tunnel here. So we actually might take the mech route. And as such, I think we're going to be pretty aggressive about doing some trade. So one of the gotchas is you can't take the same action twice each turn. So if I were to trade this turn, I can't trade the next turn. The exception to that is the Rustviet, who can do the same actions back to back perfectly fine. I think I will start with a move, because that's very much what I want to do. One of the things I want to do is I want to get my character into town as early as possible to trigger this encounter. Not all our encounters are on villages, by the way. So, for example, here's one in the woods. So I'm going to start with the move action over here. I'm going to confirm. You can turn off the need to hit confirm, but I'm leaving it on for now because I don't really know what I'm doing. And I'm going to move. I'm going to leave a character on the wood tile over here, because I'm going to want wood for some buildings fairly early. We can make do without food for now. So I'm going to take this worker and move him into the village here, because I'm going to want to produce in the village so that I get more workers. You get to do 2 moves. My second move is going to be to move my main character here. I'm moving towards the town. It doesn't matter which of these 2 tiles I end up in. It like literally makes no difference here. I'll go to the forest. The important thing is that next turn I can reach the village. So we're going to do that. And that's my turn. If I had, so my move action here, on the bottom part of this action card is the ability to spend wood to build a building. If I had wood, I could do that right now. But I don't, so this is in fact the end of my turn. So the Nords are trading for resources. They spend a coin and they get, looks like they got 2 wood. You're also trading, spending a coin, and you're getting, I think that was 2 oil. You can do a mix of things. You're also trading for oil. Trading for oil is good because it lets you get upgrades. It's just really powerful early on. Although on this card it's a little awkward. My upgrade, which is a powerful action, is tied into the bolster power, which is good for boosting your military, but isn't really a priority to me early on. So I think that means we're going to not really focus on this super fast. Anyway, we're going to take the mech route to bust out of here. So I'm going to take on this action, since I can't move a second time. I really want to get into the town, but I can't move a second time. I could produce right now, which would also be kind of okay, but I do want to get a mech as quickly as possible. How do we build a mech? Oh, you build a mech on the produce action on this card. Okay, so hold on. So if I trade, move, trade, then I can produce and build a mech, right? This is a game all about planning ahead. We want to make sure that we have at least 3 metal as soon as possible. So on this turn, we will trade, which is over here. I'll spend a coin, gain 2 resources. The resources will go in a tile that you control. It doesn't matter where the resources are, as long as you're going to maintain control of that tile, which is very important. If you're not sitting in the tile, then you don't get access to those resources, which is not great. I suspect, now while we are going to be in the village for a little while, I suspect we're going to spend most of the time in this forest. In addition, this forest, because it's adjacent to encounter tokens, is very likely where we're going to want to build a building. You keep control of a tile you have a building in. So any tile you have a unit in, you have control. Any unit tile you have a building in, you have control. With the exception that if someone else moves a unit into a tile where you only have a building, you don't have control of that site. The building's not lost, and as soon as they leave that tile, you get control over it again, but that's that. So anyway, I think it doesn't matter, we're going to spend these resources right away, but I think this forest tile is going to be a good place to bank some resources relatively safely. So I'm going to get 2 metal, 1 and 2, banked over there, excellent. And I can't take the bottom action on this card because it would require 4 food, so we'll just go ahead and end the turn. Boom, boom, boom. Upgrades. All right. You're producing. So by default, the produce action, you produce in 2 different hexes, and you produce 1 resource for every worker in that tile. So if you have 5 workers in 1 tile, then you get 5 stuff when you produce in that tile, which is very nice. Okay, so we can't trade a second time, which is fine. We're going to go ahead with the move action over here. Again, the idea is we'll move here. We don't have the wood, but that's fine. Next turn, we trade for more metal. We trade for at least 1 metal. I don't know what the other one will be. I think it's going to depend a lot on what our encounter is here. So I'm going to take a move. I'm going to take you and move you into the village. I just realized I made a mistake. Because I have a second move here. And it might be nice to move this guy into the village. But if I do that, I won't have control over this tile anymore. I guess I'm just going to waste my second move. I think I could have... I knew I was going to move in here. I should have just put the metal in here. I was talking about long-term plans, which I think are true for a long-term situation, but not a short-term. Well, at least we'll get a wood from our production instead of 2 workers. I don't know, man. I think I made a mistake. Already. Good stuff. So yeah, we can still make a second move. We're not gonna. We're gonna end this, and then we get an encounter card. Because at the end of your move, if you're in a tile with an encounter token, you get this. So, what do we got? All right, beautifully illustrated cards all the time. Very nice. So on an encounter, you get 3 choices. The bottom one, as far as I know, always costs you popularity to do something. The first one is always a gain everything, and the second one seems to be a pay money to do a thing all the time. Oh man, if I'd realized this is what was going to be, I would have felt very comfortable moving that other pawn. Oh, that's frustrating. Okay, anyway. So, I guess the convoy is lost. Point the traveling convoy in the right direction. We are Poland, we get to do 2 things. So we're going to do this to gain money and popularity. And we're going to say, ask the mechs to blow a hole in the mountainside, pay money to gain metal. Boom. We're going to do that. We will take, and yeah, it'll just drop there. That's fine. Already making mistakes. Because of insufficient planning about... Because I was planning correctly for the trade and the spending... Although, as it turns out in hindsight, I didn't even need to do the trade. But I didn't plan enough about how I would want to do my move. I knew I wanted to move my character in the encounter spot, but that's about all. Alright, they're doing some more trading and things. That's fine. Okay. I think I definitely want to do a produce over here, because I've got tons of metal. Let's get a mech on the field, and that's going to be cool. So we're going to produce. So on the bright side is I will be able to produce here and get some wood. That's going to be fine. And I'll produce here and get an extra worker. If I'd moved the worker here, I would have gotten 2 pros and cons and whatever, but then I wouldn't have gotten the wood. Yeah. Okay, we've done that. Now, I could end my turn, but I do have enough metal to use the bottom part of my card finally. So I will play 3 metal. I'm actually going to grab that, and we're going to deploy mech. Now, when you deploy mech, you get an ability. I think in the physical version of this, basically you have a mech on each one of these, and you pick up that mech and place it on the board to sort of unlock it. So I think we're going to grab river walk so that our mechs can walk across rivers. We can deploy it in any tile we have control over. Here's an interesting thing. I think I'm going to deploy it... Huh. We need to get more people. I'm going to deploy it here. We'll be able to get another mech very soon. Because, actually, we can get a mech... Well, not next turn, because we can't produce twice in a row, but really soon. I think, unless I'm mistaken, I think my character also gains the river walk ability from unlocking the mech. I think I'll have 2 decent moves next turn. But I've definitely... Yeah. I don't know, man. We can fast forward through this as well, while I'm thinking about how badly I played that. And I think on that sort of less than positive note, I think what we'll do is we'll put a cut in here. Because with the intro and things, we're at round 5, the game will probably last around 20 turns. Slightly shorter than that if one of the players does really well and gets to 6 stars quickly. Somewhat slower than that if the players do a little bit less good. But I think that's going to be a perfect length to maybe make 3 nicely cut videos. So that's going to be the plan over here. We're going to go and put a cut in here. I'm really looking for advice. I won't be able to tie it into the remainder of this game here, but pointing out like slightly stronger combos and things like that for future openings. Keeping in mind, of course, the opening move is really a combination of both your faction and your card. If you have a different action card, even if you're the same faction, you're going to have to play it very differently. Or if you're starting somewhere else and you got different resources and different bonuses. Yeah. Well, anyway, that's that. Thank you very much for watching, folks, and I really look forward to recording part 2 next. See you next time. Bye-bye.